Hello, everyone. I am very pleased to be able to welcome you to the Audio-Technica System 20 Pro webinar. It's incredible to see the people signing in from all around the world, hence the fact I won't say this time good morning. Hello to you all. I'm very pleased to host with our technical director from the European EMEA region, Alexander Lepkes. I am sure many of you perhaps know Alex already and his wealth of knowledge, which you will benefit from today. Just like to do some housekeeping before we start. If you could ensure that you have your microphones off to avoid any disturbance. As is mentioned above, we are recording the meeting. So by joining, you are agreeing to us doing the recording. And pretty much that's all. I would ask you very kindly, you will have many, many questions, and we want to answer those questions. If you could let Alex speak, do his presentation, explain to you all the wonderful benefits of our new System 20 Pro, and write any questions you might have in the chat, and we will address them at the end. I hope that's okay for you all. And without any further ado, I would like to hand over to Alex, and I wish us all a wonderful webinar. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, everybody. I hope you can all hear me fine. Dear ladies and gentlemen, everybody in between and outside. Thank you very much for joining for the System 20 Pro seminar around, I would say, half of the world. Greetings to the Middle East, Europe, and Southeast Asia and East Asia. We all have you on board. Thank you very much for making your time. With no further ado, let me start digging into today's subject, which is System 20 Pro, a system that we're just launching at Audio-Technica. And I would like to run you through a few of these features and trying to connect them with market opportunities that we see with this system for you and ultimately then for us as well as Audio-Technica. System 20 Pro is a digital wireless system, and before we go into the details, let's have an executive overview on the main features as they are presented by our marketing division. First of all, the System 20 is a 20-channel simultaneously wireless system. So if you're familiar with Audio-Technica's System 10 Pro already, this is a 10-channel system dedicated. System 20 Pro now doubles that, hands down. Little secret between the tech nerds on the call, which is including me a little bit. Actually, 20 is not really the limit. I can explain a few ideas how you can even boost it up slightly higher in case you're brave enough. We're using 2.4 gigahertz frequency range for our digital transmission. This is not a surprise. It's the same frequency range that we use for System 10. This is co-sharing the spectrum with Wi-Fi, wireless LAN, Bluetooth, and if you're very precise, your microwave oven in the kitchen is using that same frequency range as well. A new feature here is that we can recharge the transmitters now. And as it was possible to run System 10 on rechargeable batteries on the handheld and body pack already, it was not possible to charge within the transmitter. This changed now with System 20 Pro, making it even more a very much preferred solution for install customers. What we kept from System 10 Pro is the remote receiver unit. For added versatility, we added a few more perks to this one, and I will come to that one in a minute as soon as we talk about the receiver itself. It offers AES-128 encryption. Digital data protection becomes very important in today's business, and you do not want to have your neighboring company trying to spy on you while you have a meeting somewhere in your conference rooms and you're using a wireless system. So in this case, we highly recommend to use an encrypted transmission for your speeches, so to avoid people learning about your strategies. Another strong wish that our customers had for our System 10 Pro at the time is they wanted to control it over the network with our wireless manager software. Having said this is what we did for System 20 Pro. System 20 Pro now has a network connector and can be controlled not only via the wireless manager, but through other means as well. Most important feature, which you don't find on the spec sheet so easily, is it's a super easy system. And you should never underestimate the power of that message. Wireless systems can be very painful if you have to manage frequency coordination and other stuff, and external antennas and boosters and splitters and combiners. System 20 Pro main target in the design process was make it as simple as possible for the user so that everybody can operate it, and it's super simple to set up in the first place as well. Just a few very, very simple steps needs to be done, and then you have a very reliable and robust system that basically fixes itself while it operates. So let's start digging into some details. First of all, the central element of every wireless system is the receiver, the unit that picks up all the various transmitting signals from our microphones and delivers the audio back to our sound system. In standard mode, the receiver is a 2-channel wireless system. So there is no single channel receiver available from Audio-Technica. We made that decision carefully to see whether we would need this, but there was actually no major price advantage. So we said, okay, that's it. We just offer a 2-channel receiver as a standard mode. Having said this, if I emphasize it like standard mode, yes, you guessed it right. There is a high density mode where you can just switch it to 4 channels out of the box. There's no additional fee for this. There's no licensing subscription required. You simply change the mode of the receiver and you go to 4-channel mode. A quick look at this for the technical people. System 20 is using 2 frequencies simultaneously for 2 channels. Well, that's not a big surprise. Yeah, in the first place, it's not. The trick is that the audio is sent twice from each channel on the 2 different frequencies. So as you can see on this one, the blue boxes represent one audio signal of the first microphone, and it's basically toggling between 2 frequencies, while at the same time every data gets transmitted twice. That makes it very robust against interference. The second audio channel then just jumps in between these gaps and alternates accordingly. In the end of the day, you're using 2 frequencies for 2 channels. Now, if you switch to HD mode, you do not use more spectrum. You still use the same amount of frequencies. In this case, it's 2, but you just increase the time domain slots for each of these 4 channels now. Having said this means that you add some latency when you switch to HD mode, which is 6.7 milliseconds, while in standard mode you have a very, very good 2.8 milliseconds. Now, how bad is 6.7 milliseconds? Usually, if you would put on a headphone and you give a microphone to a user with 6.7 milliseconds, most people will not recognize this latency. It's about 2 meters of traveling of sounds through the air, and you can stand in front of a loudspeaker 2 meters away, and you won't hear a latency coming out of it if you would talk into a microphone. So 6.7 milliseconds is still on the good side, specifically when we're talking speech applications here, which is the main target application for System 20 Pro. The system is rack mountable out of the box. That is not a surprise because that's what Audio-Technica usually does. We never charge you extra for rack mount kits in the first place because we don't believe in this extra monetary thing. So when you open the box, you get a short rack ear and a long rack ear. What is new though is that our engineers came up with a very sneaky and smart idea to use the long rack ear. If you have two of them, two of these receivers, you can use the long rack ear to mount two receivers into one rack unit. If you pay very special attention, it's a little bit tricky to see. Let me get my virtual laser pointer out. You see in here, the little screw on this side, and you see the little edge here. This is basically the long rack mount here underneath and covering both of the receivers in the center. So there's no more joining plate required or any extra hardware, where if you want to mount two of these receiver units in one rack unit, and if you do so and you switch them to HD mode, you have 8 wireless channel in just one rack unit. So density, pretty high on this one. And please always put that into consideration with the price point that system sits on. Let's have a look at the rear of the receiver. Starting on one end, we have the Audio-Technica link ports. They're used to link multiple receivers together. For timing reasons, the maximum amount of receivers that you can link together in one system is 5 receivers. Now, if you do the math, if you have 5 receivers and all of them are in HD mode with 4 channels, that means you can drive 20 channels with one system. Having said this, the RF spectrum, when you run 20 channels, is still less used than you would use 10 channels on System 10 Pro or other 2.4 gigahertz based wireless systems out there on the market. So technically, if you set up a second system in the same room, make certain that you place your receivers a little bit apart, you can still increase a few more channels, 24 channels, 28 channels. That should be still doable spectrum-wise. It just depends very much how much spectrum you're using for other applications, mainly Wi-Fi. Bluetooth is not an issue. Bluetooth is very soft in most applications, but Wi-Fi and wireless LAN can be very strong. And in this case, you need to see how you can coexist. In any case, you will be very much surprised in HD mode how many channels you can actually squeeze into the given spectrum. It's a 4-channel system in HD mode. Therefore, you have 4 analog audio outputs on the receiver side. And to save you a little bit of hassle, the force output can be configured to be a mix out. So in this setup, all 4 audio channels will appear on output number 4, and in the software, which is free on our internet to download, which goes with System 20 Pro, you can set the individual levels of these channels in case you want to balance that out for a specific reason, different types of microphones, for instance. And you can, of course, mute and unmute them in the software as well. Having said this, if you want to use the software, you need to use the network control, standard port here. And with the network control, you have the ability to use our wireless manager. Plus, you can, of course, use third-party control protocols if you like. We are disclosing our control protocol, so we give you access to basically all these components in the audio chain of the signal, starting with transmitter gains, mute status, a 4-band EQ, compressor, post meters, pre-meter displays, pads and mix gains, and of course mute status, the most important one, which might be coming in handy if you control it with a third-party brand software solution. However, you do not have to use a third-party brand. You can use Audio-Technica's wireless manager for this basic setup. We have EQs, as said already, we have compressor dynamics, and we have the mix control for the different 4 channels in case you're using the mix out function. A key feature of System 20 Pro and System 10 Pro was and is the removable receiver unit. The receiver unit locks into the receiver chassis, in standard mode if you just place the receiver in a corner of the room, or you use it portable, street festival or somewhere, a rental company might want to have them just roving around. You set it up, you're good to go. But in a fixed installation, what you can do is remove the receiver unit from the receiver chassis and put a Cat5e cable, or better, of up to 100 meter between the receiver chassis and the receiver unit, which you then can wall mount somewhere in the room. Now here is a real nice benefit. One receiver unit is there to pick up immediately 2 of these transmitters, and in HD mode that increases to 4 channels. So you see 4 antennas. It's basically 2 frequencies, diversity antenna setup, what we're having here. So, and as 4 channels will share 2 frequencies, that's what you all need. So a 4-channel wireless system will require one of these receiver units to be placed somewhere in the meeting room itself, while the receiver chassis with all the audio outputs, and then obviously with the mixer unit that you might use, or amplifiers, speaker controls, can sit in a control room next door. The unit holder, they snap together for a longer installation. So if you really go all the way to 20 channels, you can snap 5 of them in one really lining. There's this really nice feature here at the side, which snaps in neatly, so it looks nice. It's pale white intentionally. The reason for that one is very simple. You can color it in any color you like. Purple if you like. If you like, put a purple pineapple on it. It's all up to you, free to what your customer requires and wishes for. Additionally, you can add this little cover at the bottom so that you run the cables that typically come out at the bottom, as you can see here on the right, that can go straight through the wall. If it's a dry wall or a wooden wall, you can run the cables hiddenly behind the wall and you can cover the holes with this extra part. The receiver unit is equipped with a 1/4 inch thread. 1/4 inch is often used for camera mounts and for video cameras and lighting equipment and such. So there is a variety of different wall mounts and ceiling mounts available on the market. Audio-Technica does not offer any of these, but you can pick any 1/4 thread mounting option that you like and wish for to mount the receiver unit on the ceiling, on the wall, like you see in the drawing here. So that's it for the receiver part. Let's have a look at the 4 different types of transmitters that we're offering. First of all, traditionally, the end number 1 is reserved for the body pack transmitter with Audio-Technica, and we keep it like this. We're using the CW type wireless microphone. The CW connector is the Hirose connector that Audio-Technica is using since decades already. It's very robust and reliable. That's the reason we picked it in the first place. It snaps on easily with the ring to be pulled back to release it from the body pack. It has a defeatable mute switch which sits right here on top of the body pack, easily to be felt with your fingers if you just touch it. And if you do not want your user to be able to accidentally mute the body pack, you can defeat that function in the software. It can operate on nickel metal hydride rechargeable batteries. That is not new, but what is new is you can charge it directly in the transmitter. And to make it easier, we reuse the same charger that we offer for the 3000 and 3000 digital wireless system, the ATW Charger 3A. If you're confused with the suffix A, there is no fundamental difference between Charger 3 and Charger 3A. It's just a running change that we had to do because of a component change inside. Functionality-wise and interoperability, they're both the same. So don't worry if you have a Charger 3 somewhere hanging around, you can use that one as well. Battery lifetime is a question that usually get asked a lot. And here our engineers did really something impressive. Battery lifetime on AA batteries, 2 of them, is 15 hours. If you go to nickel metal hydride rechargeable, is 14 hours. Having said this, there's a wide variety on NIMH batteries available. So please check the capacity of your battery. If you go with a 700 milliamp hours battery, you might not get the full 14. If you go to 2600 milliamp hours on Ansman batteries or something else, you will easily exceed the 14 hours of operating time with that. So please watch your batteries and stay away from NIMH batteries designated for flash, for camera flash, because they provide a lot of instant current, but they're not good in the long run. So stay away for these that are specifically marked for camera flash applications. You want to have just regular NIMH rechargeable AA batteries. You can operate the body pack on lithium batteries. Watch out. When somebody says lithium, everybody thinks about lithium ion or lithium polymer ion rechargeable batteries. That's not what we're referring here to. We're talking lithium batteries. Lithium batteries now in the AA form factor are commonly used for smoke detectors and such. So basically applications where you require a battery to run for a very, very long time, like years to come, with very, very little current. As the current consumption is fairly low on the body pack, fairly low, you can operate the system on lithium batteries and you get an astonishing 30 hours, almost 29 in fact, on a lithium battery, non-rechargeable pack. Let's have a look at the handheld transmitter. It's a dynamic cardioid microphone. Dynamic microphones are standard. Cardioid is the optimal polar pattern for untrained users. It is narrow enough to avoid sound coming in from the side and the back, and it's wide enough to allow somebody who's not trained with microphones to still be heard when holding it slightly off axis. It has a defeatable mute switch, which is this main switch directly here under the thumb. If you hold it nicely, you can defeat this to avoid accidentally muting the signal. Of course, it operates on NIMH rechargeable batteries, and of course, you now can charge the batteries directly inside the transmitters. Battery lifetimes pretty much the same, slightly less than the body pack. We have alkaline 18 hours, NIMH 16 hours, and lithium 35. I think I take that back slightly more if I get this right. Charger. The ATW Charger 3A, with or without network. Network is indicated by the N at the end of the product code. Can be used and should be used for System 20 Pro handheld and body pack transmitters. You can daisy chain multiple of these chargers to use the same AC adapter. I'm saying this because, at least for the European market, I do not know the way how this is handled in Southeast Asia and Asian countries, East Asian countries. In Europe and Middle East, please order the power supply, the AC adapter extra. This one is not included in any of them. The reason for that one is very simple. If you would offer the AC adapter to be included, at the end you wouldn't, if you want to go for 5 of these charging stations to charge up to 10 transmitters, you would end up having 5 of these AC adapters, from which 4 of them are completely useless. Because with the link kit, you can easily connect multiple chargers and link the power and the network controls through. So please note that. Have a look at the manual, reach out to our support team if you have any questions. You need 1 charger station with or without network and 1 AC adapter, and then you have multiple link kits for additional charging units. And if you want to network control the chargers, only the first one needs to be network charger. All the other chargers can be standalone standard chargers, and they will get the signal through the link kit and will be controllable from then. The third transmitter in our lineup is the boundary microphone transmitter. It's a cardioid condenser boundary microphone. Technically, it's a half cardioid, so don't be too critical when we say cardioid, but of course, it's a boundary microphone, so it sits on the surface, which gives you the benefit of 3 dB better sound to background noise gap. So use a boundary microphone every time you have a kind of a noisy environment and you need to be able to suppress it a little bit. A boundary microphone always has a benefit here. There's a switch on it, as you can see in the bottom, and this can be set to 4 different modes. Toggle, which means on off. Every time you touch it, it switches between the on and the off stage. Touch to talk, which would be kind of a paging applications. As long as you put your finger on the button, you will be able to be heard. Touch to mute, commonly known as the cuff switch as well. In this case, you would use this to momentarily mute yourself, and disable in case you want to have the microphones on at all time. The mute status that the microphone comes up when you switch it on can be defined. That's a very odd request. If you think about it, it makes more sense finally. Some customers like to switch on the transmitters and want them all to be muted. Others prefer them all to be unmuted in case, you just deploy the microphones and they all should be on immediately. Specifically, when you disable the mute switch, those microphones will be always by default on when you switch them on. Otherwise, you would never be able to use them. So make certain you check with your client and customer what should be the default mute status of the microphones. If they should be on or off, you can set that in the system, and that's how they will then behave according to your customer's wish. The boundary microphone comes with an inbuilt lithium-ion rechargeable battery. So there's a battery pack inside, as we have it all in our smartphones, and it can be charged via USB-C cable on the unit, as seen here. Battery lifetime of the boundary microphone is 12 hours. And yeah, sorry, there should be a period at the end of that one, isn't it? I know at least one person on the call who is very specific with a period at the end of a sentence. So the battery lifetime is 12 hours, period. Now, the System 20 Pro allows 2 different modes that the boundary transmitter can be operated in. They're called standard mode or conference mode. In standard mode, when the microphone is muted, the LED on the boundary will be red, indicating a mute status. If it's unmuted, the boundary LED will go green. So mute, red, unmuted, and talking, green. However, in conference mode, a mode that other people are used to, when you're muted, the LED will simply be off. And in the moment you unmute yourself, the LED will turn red, indicating you are live on air, similar to a broadcast sign. So these 2 different modes exist, and some clients wish for the one mode over the other. We pay tribute to this one, so we offer those 2 modes for the boundary microphones to behave like. The last transmitter in the lineup is the gooseneck mace transmitter. It can be used with Audio-Technica's condenser gooseneck microphones. And why are we so specific and say it needs to be an Audio-Technica condenser gooseneck microphones? It's a very simple reason for that one. First of all, we're providing 24-volt phantom power. This has specific reasons, mostly about power consumption. We trying to stay away from the 48-volt here intentionally. And we cannot guarantee if a third-party brand gooseneck microphone will be able to operate on 24 volt. Plus, and this is very important, This is a wireless transmitter. It's transmitting RF signals intentionally. So basically, there's not only spurious emission, there is a true RF signal coming out of it, which might cause an interference in a gooseneck microphone that is right next to it. And it has to be right next to it because it basically plugs in. Audio-Technica tested our gooseneck microphones to be workable with the System 20 Pro. And we cannot guarantee that this is the case for third-party brand microphones. And hey, if you pick System 20 Pro from Audio-Technica, why steer away from our good gooseneck microphones? They have good high reputation on audio quality. So why would you just waste that one when you already have the chance at hand to go for the best? The switch on the gooseneck bass is doing the same as the boundary. It's toggle, touch to talk, touch to mute, and of course you can disable it here as well. Default mute status can be defined, very important. You deploy the transmitters, you want to know whether they are on or off in the first place to not get any kind of sudden surprise with 20 microphones on at the same time, for instance, in a very noisy environment. It can be charged over USB-C cable, and of course it has an inbuilt lithium-ion rechargeable battery. Battery lifetime differs slightly here from the boundary microphone. If you use a gooseneck microphone without LED, it will be 12 hours. This considers that you're using the LED on the bass itself. So the two LEDs seen on the bass, they will be operating, but there's no additional LED ring on the gooseneck microphone itself. If you equip a gooseneck microphone with LED, this battery lifetime comes down to 8 hours with 50% speak time. So pretty okay. It might not go for this ultra long marathon here, but I think it's good enough for most of the applications. Again, we have standard mode and conference mode, and there's no surprise that actually operates in the same way. In standard mode, the gooseneck bass will toggle between red and mute and green for the unmuted status. And when you switch the receiver on the entire system to conference mode, it toggles between off for the LED in mute mode and red for the unmuted state. Now, there's something you need to know and learn about System 20 Pro, which is really important. Goosenecks without LED should be operated in standard mode. You can set it to conference mode. It doesn't make a huge difference, but the recommendation would be go to standard mode. However, if you have a gooseneck with LED, you should operate that in conference mode. And there's a very simple reason. The reason is the gooseneck LED will not be toggled in standard mode. In standard mode, where you toggle between red and green on the bass, we are not be able to send a signal up to the gooseneck to switch on and off the LED. This is only happening in conference mode. So if you would like to have a status like this, where your gooseneck bass is green, so obviously in standard mode, and you want to have your LED ring on the microphone in green, which you can do on the Engineered Sound ES925 with an XLR bass, you can make that one happen, what you see here. But this is not a configuration that you should go for, because in this mode, what would happen? If you're unmuted, the bass would be green in standard mode, and I might need to ask one of my wing people to give me a short moment since when I was off. Alison, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
When did I drop off?
I'm literally a couple of seconds. What about the rest of the people? Let me ask in the
Okay.
chat.
I will just go
You,
back.
I thought you were pausing and thinking.
No, I was sorry. I was kicked out of the system. Excuse me to everybody. I will pick up from here. So,
As you're explaining the first column, okay.
yes. So we're going back to the standard mode. In standard mode, the bass will be unmuted in green, and the microphone will be unmuted, and the LED ring will illuminate it in green. However, if you mute now the bass in standard mode, the LED would turn red, the microphone would be muted, but the LED ring would still be on. And that is highly confusing. And this cannot be solved technically. It's the way the system works, we have to do it in a different way. So for this situation, we strongly suggest please switch the system to conference mode. So in case you experience that, please note, read the manual. It's written clearly in the manual. Go to conference mode and everything will work in the way you would expect it to work. We would like to add a few recommendations on gooseneck microphones that you can use with the bass transmitter. And we all tested these combinations in terms of RF interference issues and confirmed that there are none. The Pro 49QL is a very low cost microphone that is highly robust, been around for a long time, works perfectly nice with the System 20 Pro and makes it a very affordable system overall. The U859QL gives you premium sound from the Unipoint series, works like a bliss. And if you like to have a gooseneck microphone with LED, you can go with the ATUC M4358 with the hypercardioid element or the 32 with the microline. Having said this, and having colleagues from Southeast Asia and East Asian countries, there's the M44 and the M59 with the internal shock mount head case. They work perfectly fine with the System 20 Pro gooseneck bass transmitter. Additionally, you can go with the entire Unipoint 857 family with all the different opportunities and options and combinations. Gives you the premium sound you're expecting. Or you can even go with the ES925 family with the XLR power module. Gives you premium sound and access to an LED. Having said this, if you're looking at the ES925 family and you're in a country where you can use decked frequency, sincerely sorry for our friends from Philippines and Thailand, but for all the other countries, I think China as well has a problem with decked frequencies. All the others can have a look at the Engineered Sound Wireless as an upgraded system if you need even more channels than System 20 Pro is offering you. Very important point, dynamic goosenecks do not work with this boundary transmitter. The main reason is very simple. A dynamic microphone out of the box has significantly lower signal coming out, and then you need to increase the gain a lot. And as soon as you increase the gain on a transmitter a lot, you sooner or later run into a noise situation that we're trying to avoid. Technically, it works. You will get a sound. It is a bit noisy. It'd still be okay, but it's highly not recommended. There's no benefit of going with the dynamic gooseneck microphones here. Because all the benefits that why you would use a gooseneck microphone, a dynamic one, like missing phantom power and missing supply voltage, doesn't apply here. You have a battery in the gooseneck base. There is supply voltage. Go with a proper condenser gooseneck microphone. Stay away from the noise and make it sound good. Let's compare briefly System 10 Pro versus System 20 Pro, as the System 20 Pro is considered a successor model. So the first difference in specs is obviously the max channel in standard mode. No, sorry, that's not a difference. That's what I wanted to say. Well, I tricked myself. The maximum number of channels in standard mode for both systems is 10 channels. Having said this, System 10 Pro and System 20 Pro use a different method on the wireless part. So in the frequency domain, System 20 Pro, even with the same amount of channel, is actually using 40% less spectrum than System 10 Pro used to use. So it's a more efficient system now in terms of spectrum usage. If you switch System 20 Pro into HD mode, high density mode, which is not available in System 10 Pro, you can increase this to 20 channels. And here's the trick, 20 channels in HD mode require the same amount of spectrum than the 10 channel modes of System 20 Pro, and 40% less than System 10 Pro. Which means if you set up a second system in the same room with a few extra channels, and as emphasizes, it needs to be a separate system. That means the receiver units needs to be on a different side of the room, a few meters away, preferable. Then you can increase the number of channels used in one room to 24, 28, as long as the spectrum allows you to do so. So if System 10 Pro worked in a room with 10 channels, you should be able to run 28 channels of System 20 Pro, and you're not using more spectrum. That's the takeaway from this one here. Channels per receiver module. System 10 Pro introduced the receiver module that you can pull out of the receiver chassis. And customers were slightly confused sometimes that if you run 10 channels, you have to have 10 receiver modules in your room. Now with System 20 Pro, we increased the numbers of channels per receiver unit. And if you go HD mode and you want to run 4 or 8 channels, you only need 2 of these receiver units in your room, which makes the installation look even more neat than before. The overall latency in standard mode, we could bring down from 3.7 milliseconds to 2.8 milliseconds, which is kind of standard latency, I would say. Everything below 5 milliseconds is basically unrecognizable. Having said this, there's always a little bit extra, and we're talking applications where you would use in-ear monitoring system and not loudspeakers in a room. Speed of sound plays a role when you have speakers in a room and distances to these speakers, and this all goes hand in hand. So overall, you can say with 2.8 milliseconds, you're not playing the major role in here anymore. The 6.7 milliseconds in HD mode is still good. Everything below 10 is considered to be okay and not recognizable for most users. Only if you're a very critical musician, like a bass player with headphones on, and you will listen to your own signal, you might recognize a 6.7 millisecond latency at the edge of your brain. Charging options. On System 10 Pro, the handheld and body pack will not be able to be charged. It means you could run it on rechargeable batteries, but it was not possible to charge those batteries right inside the transmitter. Base and boundary were rechargeable at the time. Micro USB was the standard connector on the market. On System 20 Pro, we changed that now. Handheld and body pack have charging contacts now on the transmitter, making it an ideal product now for installations. Base and boundary switched the connector to USB-C, which is the given standard now, dictated by the European Union, actually by a directive added to the Radio Equipment Directive to harmonize the use of charging ports to allow customers, specifically for smartphones, to use the same charging cable for all different types of products. As mentioned at the first slide, we added encryption to the system. Now System 20 Pro offers AES-128 encryption, makes it secure in terms of listening to it. I mean, System 10 Pro was not easy to spy on either, because you needed to know when to listen, where to listen, what to listen. And as it's a duplex system, it was really hard. But technically, if you're a super spy, there might have been a chance to spy on it. On System 20 Pro, that gets a little bit more complicated. You will get the data stream out with the same technology, which is complicated enough in the first place, but then cracking a AES-128 encryption will take you some lifetimes to do with today's computer power. Network control. Yes, we added network control to System 20 Pro. So this is the last benefit that you can see. Having said this, System 20 Pro obviously goes the next step in terms of the features. All the features that customers frequently ask us to implement is what we took in and implemented. Following our slogan, Audio-Technica, always listening, this is the result of this. So thank you to all our customers and clients to bringing back all this valuable feedback that we took in. Having said this, System 10 Pro in Europe, we still have some stock available. If you are looking for a quick solution and you do not require all the new features of System 20 Pro, reach out to our sales team. They will definitely going to help you out with some System 10 Pro solutions. Last but not least, I would like to emphasize one thing, and for our dear colleagues and friends and partners in Southeast Asia and East Asia, this might not 100% apply to your situation. Please reach out to your local sales teams to get the way how the offering is structured in your countries. For Europe and Middle East and Africa, what we do is we sell System 20 Pro as a component-based system, which means we are offering the receiver with the receiver chassis and receiver unit in one block, and the 4 different transmitters as individual components. Plus, we will offer 3 dual channel combinations, which give you a slight price benefit, which is the double body pack, the double handheld, and the handheld body pack combinations. We're not offering any combinations in Europe with lavalier microphones or head-worn microphones. With the body packs, we're not offering any combinations of bass or gooseneck bass or boundary microphones together with the receiver, because that would be too cumbersome. So we just picked these 3 main combinations that are often been asked for, made them available, and you get a small price benefit for the second transmitter in the box. Otherwise, you can order any individual component straight away, and I can tell you that the price point is still attractive. Brings me to the end and to the exciting part. Now we can go kind of interactive. Are there any questions on the System 20 Pro? Then please put them into the chat or into the Q&A section, which some of you used, so we can explain all this. Alison, over to you with the questions.
Hey, Alex. Yeah, we have already a few questions. Again, I'd just like to say thank you to everybody for attending our webinar. We have 140 delegates attending. I think that's really marvelous. So the one question that I will ask first on behalf of the delegate, he noticed that the BP892 is not listed as a compatible head microphone for the body pack. Is that correct?
We didn't put any microphones actually on the presentation. We only looked into the goosenecks. The BP892 works perfectly fine with the body pack. I myself tested that, and I can guarantee you that works. There's none. We tried to find lavalier and head-worn microphones that will have a problem with the body pack, and we couldn't find any. It's as simple as that. If you can force the very low price ones, if you place the microphone directly onto the antenna of the body pack, you might be able to provoke a kind of a digital noise coming into the microphone, but that's not the application, because you usually don't put your microphone at the antenna part. So just, if you stay away from that one, all fine. And the BP892 specifically didn't even pick it up then. So absolutely fine to use BP892.
So that's fine to use. Thank you for that. Then we have a question. Could you explain a little more how to get 24 to 28 channels in a space?
Yeah. So the limitation of the 20 channels is coming from the synchronizing cable that we had mentioned on one of the first slides. Give me a quick, short second, and I'm going to switch back to that page for better explanation. Just takes a short moment, and this looks like the page I want to go for. Brief look at my boring desktop. So we have the link output here. With this one, we can daisy chain multiple receivers. And the limit here is 5 of them. And this has to do with timing because we need to be very, very, very fast. RF is super fast, talking speed of light here. So we need to be able that all the 5 receivers are synchronized. Synchronized in the terms that they transmit and receive at the same time. So all receivers will listen to their transmitters, so 20 transmitters, at the same time slot of 1 millisecond. And then when they're done, they're pushing out their control data back to all those 20 transmitters simultaneously. And they have to do this so that they don't interfere with each other. Just imagine one receiver is basically trying to listen to its transmitter like, hey, what's going on? And then the receiver next door is just yelling back to its transceiver, everything's fine. And the first receiver will say, hey, can you just shut down a bit? I'm trying to listen. So we make certain with the synchronization cable that all the transmitters transmit at the same time and all the receivers talking back at the same time, synchronized. The limit for this is 20 channels. Now, spectrum-wise, if you use 20 channels, you use only 20 frequencies, and they are 3 megahertz apart. So you use up a specific amount of spectrum. Now in System 10 Pro, you used 2 megahertz spacing, but you used 2 frequencies for 1 channel. So you used more frequencies in the first place. This means System 20 Pro still has some spectrum left that it could be using. Now, if you set up a second system, a second set of receivers, like 2 or 3, and synchronize them independently, and now make certain that these receiver units are placed away from the other receiver units because they are no longer synchronized with the first system. So you're running 2 systems at the same time in one room, and they're not talking at the same time and listening at the same time anymore. So the receiver units itself, the little boxes with the antennas on, they need to stay away from each other. At least 1 meter is what our engineers suggest. I would do it and play it safe and put them on the other side of the wall. Put one on one end and one on the other end of the room, and then spectrum-wise, you're fine. And you can then increase it. So one system operates 20 channels. 2 systems can operate more in the same room if you know some rules. Split the receiver units. If you have any questions on that one, reach out to your support team, to your sales staff at the Audio Technica offices. They will be very happy to help you with this one. But 24 is good, but you need to have the spectrum. Make certain you know how much Wi-Fi is going on in your room.
It's always the golden question with the Wi-Fi, as I can attest to. Alex, the next question, can we do recharge on the T1406 or 1407 when it's being used live?
Yes,
can you do a recharge?
Yes. You can switch on while charging. So if you want to go really the extra lengths, put a USB-C port at every desk position and you can charge and run.
Great. Okay, and then we move to another one. Does the HD mode affect sound quality? Does the HD mode still work with true diversity, for example, with 2 pairs of antennas for 4 channels?
Yes. That's a complex question. Yes, it affects the audio quality slightly, but not recognizably. We are reducing the bit rate slightly. So technically, yes, it reduced the audio quality. The main factor is it increases the latency. That's the main disadvantage you're getting. You're going to 6.7 milliseconds. Having said this, this is really still good. And if you compare with engineered sound wireless, which works perfectly fine, which has a latency of above 10 milliseconds out of the box in standard mode, and everybody's fine with that, you can see that this is not a major disadvantage. Diversity, yes, it stays diversity. All 4 channels operating on 2 pairs of antennas on the receiver side. So it's a true diversity system here. And the transmitters itself have 2 antennas as well for the return channels for the data, and that's diversity as well. And that works in the same way. Having said this, you might remember that from System 10 Pro, all our transmitters have 2 transmitting antennas, which sounds weird because you should never transmit on 2 antennas. We don't. But whenever we get the control data, we can see which of the two antennas is receiving better at that moment. And the one that is receiving the signal better is the one antenna that we're using to transmit the next bit of round of data. So this way, we can guarantee that the transmitting antenna is always the better antenna as well.
Good. Okay. Somebody asks, what's the mic capsule used in the handheld transmitter?
Yes, it's not available as a wired microphone currently from Audio-Technica. It's the same capsule that we use on the System 10 transmitter, so we didn't change that one. It used to come out of the Pro series that many of you still have and enjoy. We have that in Europe as well, and it was one of these, but we're not offering a wired version of it right now, so sorry for that. I will double check that if I was wrong, but I'm pretty certain that this is the case. If one of my Japanese engineer colleagues is on the call, maybe they can put it in the chat if they know if there is a wired version available.
Okay, thank you. That would be great. This is quite short and I'm not sure. It says, why CW, not CH?
I see. Yeah, that's a very cryptic. Cost. It's very simple. The CW connector is the one that we used a lot in the past. It's a standard off-the-shelf product from Hiroshi, and it's fairly reliable. We developed together with Hiroshi the CH connector, which we're using on the 3000 series and the 5000 series and the 3000 digital, and it's significantly smaller in all kind of dimensions. Smaller, specifically made from Audio-Technica, translates to more expensive. System 20 Pro should be a price affordable system, so it was decided that we're going and use the standard CW connector that we still use on some other wireless platforms like the 2000 series or in Europe the AT1 wireless system, so the more price affordable system.
Which just works just as well, so good call. Can we connect receiver to network and using existing Wi-Fi access point? Does that make sense? Can we connect receiver to network and using existing Wi-Fi access point?
Yeah, I need to guess a little bit. Let me break that down. The connection between the receiver unit and the receiver chassis is not network, it's a point-to-point cable. So you have the receiver chassis and the receiver unit, and that goes not over a network. The network port itself of the receiver can, of course, be connected to any kind of a network, can be Wi-Fi. So the control data, this all like how you want to control the receiver over the network, mute status, EQ settings, all this, that can be done, of course, over any type of Wi-Fi or LAN application as you're used to. However, just to be clear, there's no audio coming out of the network socket. It's not Dante. There's no digital audio coming out of the network. So there's no network audio in this system. I hope that answered your question. Otherwise, please rephrase.
Okay. We have quite a lot here. This one, I'm sure, is going back to the question with the 24 to 28 channels. Could you please give us the sample diagram when two group of system devices in the same room? I think you answered that.
I answered that verbally.
Yeah.
You know what? As we're going to provide that presentation later on, I'm going to add a slide explaining that example, how that looks. It's basically, think about it. You have one room with a system of maybe 4 receiver units, 16 channels, and you have a second room with 3 or 4, the same logic. Next door, if you move them a little bit closer together, you have what I'm just referring to. Just make certain you split the receiver units a bit apart, a few meters in between the 2 receiver unit groups. That is required. But I will make a drawing and add it to the presentation.
Okay, that's great. Thank you, Alex. This question was just thrown in mid, and whether you can understand it in its context. What type of capsule? C510. Then it says question mark changeable.
Yes. So no is the answer. We are not offering the interchangeable capsules like the 510 or the 710. with the condenser head, which was a different question in the Q&A section. No, it's a fixed dynamic element. You cannot exchange the capsule. It's out of the box. If you want to go with interchangeable elements and with all this, look into 3000 series, look into Engineered Sound Wireless if DECT frequencies are available in your country.
Okay, thank you. Can we use 4 wireless desktop microphones at once, at one time?
Yes, actually, that's the main purpose of the system. And so the way you do it, yes, you can use 4 desktop microphones with 1 receiver in HD mode with 1 receiver unit. And if you have a kind of a boardroom application or discussion room application, easily 20 channels, throw them in, go to HD mode, put the gooseneck bases or the boundary microphones around the table. Make certain that they're all muted when you switch on. The default mute status, I would put them on muted, and then allow them to toggle on and off.
Marvelous. Okay. Do we need to, I think they missed out a word. Do we need to something away from access point as the same as System 10? Do we need to move away from the access point as the same as System 10?
Yeah. Proximity helps. Yes, 100% agree. So if you have a Wi-Fi access point in your installation in the room and you placing the receiver units, it would be a smart move to keep them slightly away. Having said this, the Wi-Fi point will most likely escape System 20 and vice versa. Both systems are frequency agile, so they're trying to stay out of trouble. And as soon as the Wi-Fi access point established is 20 megahertz wide channel, System 20 Pro will not go there. It will just avoid it. And it has enough spectrum left within the 83 megahertz available in all the regions on the planet. So it will dodge it. For the 20 channels, we're talking like 30 megahertz of spectrum used out of the 80. Sorry. And it will, once it establishes its frequencies, it's constantly monitoring this. And the Wi-Fi access point does the same. It just checks which frequencies are available and will not transmit somewhere where there's a lot of interference. So they will cure themselves in a way. If you have multiple access points on multiple channels, then of course we recommend to put the Wi-Fi access points more far away from the receiver units. It's always a smart thing to do. But the most important thing is try to have the between the transmitters and the receiver units, they shouldn't be a Wi-Fi point. So don't put the transmitters on one side of the room, the receiver on the far end of the other room, and in between put the access point, because again, proximity wins. The access point now is significantly stronger in the receivers and the transmitters antennas than they could see each other. So try to avoid that.
So proximity critical. Okay, and we move to how is ID stroke channel stroke transmitter settings how is the synchronizing done for ID channel and transmitter settings?
Yes, that's kind of simple. As soon as you go to the software, or you can do it on the front display on the receiver, you just say synchronize this, and then you switch on a transmitter and hold the button for 5 seconds. That's it. So you say which receiver unit you want to synchronize in a sentence.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I highly recommend the user manual on this one. It is really worth a read. In actually any case.
In any case. Yes. Thank you, Alex. So what does it mean to external port behind the R1440 unit for second system frequency synchronization?
I see. The two external port. I'm just highlighting that one here on the screen so that everybody can see this. It's probably this one here. The two external, this is the port where you plug in the 100 meter up to 100 meter long Cat5e cable to the receiver unit that you place into the room. So you pull out this one. Give me a second. This cable here going to the receiver unit that plugs into this two external. We might have shown that one on a picture.
Okay.
I take a note on that one.
Yeah. Great. Okay. Thank you. Somebody's asking, could you explain more about the multi-TX?
Multi-TX, multi-transmitter. Oh yeah. What you can do is for each channel that you have, you can pair multiple transmitters. So for instance, you have a 4-channel system in HD mode, and you pair 4 gooseneck based transmitters to the channels 1, 2, 3, 4. You now switch off all these 4 gooseneck based transmitters, and now you take 4 handheld transmitters and you pair them to the channels 1, 2, 3, 4. Now your receiver knows on each channel a handheld and a gooseneck base. However, whatever transmitter is switched on first on a day is the one that gets the synchronization and will be linked. So the application for that would be you prepare for each of the channels the different types of transmitters you want to use. And in the morning, you can just simply decide, today I need to have 4 handhelds. You take 4 handhelds out of the charging stations, switch them on, and you're good to go. Next day, they require gooseneck bases. You take the 4 gooseneck bases off the USB-C connector, you switch them on, you're good to go. The receiver can be basically linked with synchronized and registered with multiple transmitters, and whoever switches on first is the one that gets the signal.
So first on, first signal. Okay. The next question, shielded or unshielded network cable recommended for the receiving antennae?
Yes, as good as possible. It's make the diameter big, make it shielded if you can afford. Shouldn't be a big price factor actually in the installation. Minimum recommendation is 5E, which is unshielded, and up to 5 meters is okay then, as long as it's twisted pair and has the minimum diameters, you should be good to go. We're not using network here. It's not gigabit what we're transmitting. The transmission is very basic. We're doing digital SPDIF style audio transmission, encrypted of course, and some control data in our own way. So there's no network protocol, there's no TCP/IP header, there's no conflict in terms of synchronization and stuff like this. So it's a fairly robust system. But however, cables is always the first problem that you can run into in an installation, specifically when the cable is kind of damaged. So yes, it's beneficial to go shielded. It's not required.
Okay. So now we move to, so it says, using mix out, can I use 5 times RX with 180 DM0604?
Yes, that is exactly the main application I would see in this system. So just for everybody to encrypt that a little bit from the characters reading, imagine you have 5 receivers of the System 20 Pro and you switch them all into HD mode. So you have 20 wireless channels coming in. Every receiver is using their mix down and giving out only 1 audio channel with 4 audio signals on it out. So you would have 5 audio signals available. Now, if you connect them directly to an ATDM0604 6-channel smart mixer from Audio-Technica, a very famous product, you still have 1 channel open plus the USB input so you're only using 5 of these channels. In a 6-channel mixer, you have 20 audio channels at hand if you're okay to not be able to control every individual one. So this is typically in a more disciplined environment where people are okay to mute themselves, mute on and off on the transmitters itself. It will work. If you need to make certain that every individual transmitter needs to be leveled and automatically mixed, then no, then this is not good enough. But if you find with the mix down with static levels, yes, you can run 20 channel with 1 6-channel audio mixer, correct?
Great, thank you, Alex. Now this is quite long and complex. Any feature to turn on or off others, T1406, 1407 mic, in the same system room as discussion audio conference system?
Yes. The control software, the wireless manager, allows you to mute every channel. So even if the transmitter itself tries to transmit, you can mute the channel on the receiver side remotely through the network. Now, the wireless manager is not a conference or discussion system control. It's just a setup for wireless and monitoring spectrum and battery status. However, we're disclosing the control protocol. So in the control protocol, it's absolutely possible to mute or unmute a receiver channel as you like. So if you have a programmer at hand, an integrator, or you use some third-party brands, you can fire out control commands to every receiver channel and mute them. Even if you use the audio mix down, you can still use that. So even in this situation that we explained earlier, with the 5 receivers mixed down to a 6-channel ATDM 0604 mixer, you can still go and mute every individual channel over the network control. So you can realize a really cool discussion system wireless if you like.
For small, okay, good. It says, can I know the maximum distance for the system to pick the mics on HD mode?
Yeah, the distance doesn't change in HD mode and standard mode. We're specifying, I think, 60 meters on the specification. That is a realistic size. Please note 2.4 gigahertz. And now the physicist nerd is talking. 2.4 gigahertz is a highly reflective frequency. So in this range, the signal benefits from walls. So if you're indoor, 2.4 gigahertz is really reliable and it just bounces around corners like hell. Think about it like a 4-year-old kid that you have in your house. And that works perfectly fine.
Good. Okay. With 20 or more channels, do you recommend letting the receiver modules, I think it means leaving the receiver modules in the container? All in a rack?
Yeah, sorry, I was just losing my signal.
Or putting, shall I start again?
No, go ahead, yeah, please.
With 20 or more channels, do you recommend leaving the receiver modules in the container, all in a rack, or putting the receiver modules on the wall away from each other?
No, actually, when you synchronize the receivers with the link cable, as seen on the screen, this box here, when you use this, if you use the link mode, which you should, up to 5 receiver chassis, all the receiver units can stay right next to each other because they're highly synchronized. They're not interfering with each other. You can either leave them rack mounted or put the receiver units and place them right next to each other. That's what the receiver holder, the unit holder that you remember, you can paint it with purple pineapples or stuff. You can put them on one long thing. Yeah. And they should be all together. They can be all together. They don't have to, but they can be. That's what they're made for. It's not a problem. They can be all
together. Okay. When going with 20 channels, is there a device in AT that we can use to mix out the audio?
Yes, the 10-channel mixer, the ATDM 1012, use 2 of them. You have 20 input channels, link them, and then you can do automatic mixing of the System 20 Pro ready out of the box.
Great.
So yeah, the 10-channel ATDM is the one that I would go for, 2 of them.
We have now, what is the pickup distance between TX and RX?
60 meters. That was answered earlier.
That's easy. Thank you for the presentation in terms of audio reproduction. Is this system suitable for singing or theatre applications, or rather just speech?
No, it is suitable for singing and theatre applications. Absolutely perfectly fine. Having said this, if you want to go high quality and low latency, if this is it depends on the overall setup of your system in the theater. And if you're using in your monitor system and how much latency you have in the entire chain to the point that you go to the in-ear monitor system. If this is not critical and stays below 10 milliseconds in total, you can go in HD mode. Otherwise, I would recommend go to standard mode. But we do have theater applications already in the pipeline where a customer is going with 24 channels, and I don't see a problem with this. So yes, it can be used for singing perfectly fine. Use the BP892, for instance, or the BP899 lapel microphone. put it on the forehead or somewhere neat where you don't see it, as you like require. The audio quality is hands down absolutely okay. There's nothing wrong with that. So it's not tailored for speech. It is good for singing.
Good for singing too. I think we've asked this distance again. What is the maximum distance one has to be from the gooseneck mic? Or that depends on the polar pattern of the gooseneck being used?
Is that the distance between the microphone element itself and the bass? If this is the question, then even the shortest one, the 6-inch one that we have, is good enough. It's not a problem. I even bend the element all the way down to it and really try to force it by having 2 transmitters to see if there's any interference coming in. Otherwise, if it's the
really flexible
distance between the microphone and the speaker, that depends on the critical distance of your room. So if the more reverberant your room is, the closer you should be to the microphone, and the more narrow your polar pattern should be. Go with a microline element. Or go for the U857 family with the unilined element. If you have a very noisy and reflective room. Otherwise, all those cardioid microphones that we offer are usually doing a very good job if people getting close enough to the microphone.
Yeah. Okay. Would you please re-explain, or can you explain again about the differences on toggle and touch to mute options on the ATW1T1407?
Yeah, that should be fairly easy. So just assume that is your microphone. If it's toggle on off, it means the microphone is now muted. I push the button, I release, now it's on. I push again and now it's muted. That is toggle on off, like any device that you switch on and switch off again. Now, push to talk and push to mute works that that the operation is only happening as long as you do. So for push to talk, it would go, the microphone is muted, you push your finger and now you can talk, and as soon as you release it, it will immediately, I hope I made that clear. And push to mute would be the other way around. You talk, and then you cough. No, you could hear it. Sorry, I need to make that better. Do this again. So you talk. You cough a little bit, and then you just release it. And as long as you push the button, it is muted. That's push to mute.
Ah, okay. That's good. Moving on. Will you offer a hand mic with ATM710 or another condenser head for the hand mic?
No is the answer at the moment. We do have the dynamic head. That's it. It's not interchangeable. So at the moment, it's not planned to have a condenser microphone in the lineup.
Okay, and from that same source, what is the actual head on the dynamic hand mic of the ATM510?
Again, to my knowledge, is from the Pro series, a dynamic one, and I don't think we have that as a wired option, but I'm going to check that. And I see the name. I will reach out to you and let you know.
Okay, and then some other question came in here, and it was, can I get some more info on the multi-TX? Is it by individual channel, or shall I change TX type for all channels together? And what about the EQ, comp, etc. settings? Can we create separate settings for the separate multi-paired transmitter types?
Okay, that's it. That's a long question. So let's break that down. The multi-point. Every channel can have multiple transmitters. So you have to look at them individually. The EQ setting and the compressor, the dynamic settings, are individual per each channel. So just assume you would have 2 channels used with handheld microphones, and you would like to increase a little bit the presence there at 3 kilohertz. You do so in these 2 channels. And then the gooseneck bass transmitters, for some reason you want to remove some of the low frequency rumbling noise. You put a low cut filter in there. You do this on their channels. So the EQ settings and dynamic settings are per channel.
Okay. So a lot going on in that question. I think we've answered this. What does the 2 external port do on the ATW R1440?
Yeah, we had that. That's the link connection between the receiver unit and the receiver chassis.
The link between the, yeah. Somebody asking here, if we are to do a video conferencing system, is there a compatible camera that could go with this system?
We don't have an out-of-the-box solution for this one. However, as the mute status of the transmitters can be read out by the control protocol. You can create something out of it. Having said this, it's a wireless system. And that's the point of a wireless system, is that the transmitters are free to roam in the room. If it's a body pack and a handheld, I wouldn't bet on it. If it's gooseneck bases and boundaries, again, you need to make certain that you place the boundary and the gooseneck base at exactly the same spot every time you set them up. If you do this, why do you go wireless in the first place if you want to do this extra Heather? But if it's a multifunction room and you have to remove them and move them back in, yeah, it's possible. You can program yourself based on the control protocol. We have that available. We can give you all the commands. You can read out the mute and unmute status of all the systems, but there's no control. So there's no way that you can tell the system that only one transmitter can be unmuted at a time. And in this case, it means you get conflicting situations where multiple transmitters are on, and then your camera control system might fail on a logical level. So in short, it's not made for it. There are better solutions out there. Look at our conference system in this respect, or the ceiling array microphone.
The ceiling microphone, yeah. There's a question just come in about the link ports. I would like to ask if these are just synchronized between the receiver units and not AT-Link.
Correct.
Yeah.
This is only to link between the receiver unit. There is no way to use this one for AT-Link. It's a different form factor than the Audio-Technica Link connector anyway. It's not clear on the picture. It's a 6-pin connector, while Audio-Technica Link is an 8-pin connector, so you cannot mismatch that accidentally. And yes, there's no way that the System 20 Pro has anything to do with Audio-Technica Link. There's no wall controller that can operate with it, and you cannot connect it to an Audio-Technica Link mixer. There's no digital audio coming out of System 20 Pro. It's all analog.
Oh, it's all analog. Okay. And I think with that, we answered all the questions that were written down really well. I would ask one last time if any of the delegates have anything burning that they would like to take this opportunity to ask Alex, who is a font of knowledge, as we have seen. No, I just got a little message saying thank you very much for the great information. This is a great system. Thanks for this. That's a thumbs up. So I think that's it. So I would like to say thank you to Alex for this very comprehensive and in-depth knowledge. I think everyone can really benefit from the new System 20 Pro. And as Alex has also mentioned, if you have any questions or you require any help or service, contact us or your service teams or directly, and we will ensure that you will have great support and further information. And with that, I wish everybody, wherever you are on this great globe, a wonderful time. It might be time to sleep. It might be time to eat lunch. And I say thank you, Alex, and I hope you will join us again in one of our future webinars. Thank you.
Thank you to everybody.
Thank you. And there's a lot of messages coming in. Thank you, Alex. Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
Goodbye.